All yours.
Thank you, Mickey. Thanks, Kuna. Hi, everybody. My name is Ali. I'm a grateful alcoholic. Thank you so much again. So nice to see you. Can we get somebody that's moved to from their heart, just any version of the set aside prayer? Just put up your hand electronically. Well, there it is, Terry, Las Vegas. Come on up, please.
Good morning, Terry Alcoholic. God, please help me set aside everything I know or I think I know about you, about the book, about myself, about recovery, and give me a new attitude and a new outlook about you, myself, the big book, and recovery. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Terry. Okay. Couple of things. So this weekend we have our Ontario Regional Conference. It's one of the biggest ones in Canada, maybe in North America, one of the biggest ones, but definitely I think the biggest one in Canada. And so we have a few friends that are missing today from the workshop because they're attending the conference right now. So it becomes even more imperative to please help each other out and make sure to form little groups to take each other through what was missed. I think that's part of the journey, right? That helps us just practice what we've been doing to pass it on. Just a couple of things I know. I haven't been on it, but from what I heard is that there is a WhatsApp group for the workshop, and apparently there's hundreds of people, and which is fantastic. What I have also heard from some people is that there are so many messages that they're muting in, and it's becoming ineffective. Okay, so if it's effective for you, keep visiting that, and if you find that it's ineffective, I think it's better to form smaller groups together and smaller WhatsApp groups, and then just to if someone misses something, you can help them sort of take them through. That'll be fantastic. And as always, it's just so much better and such a deeper experience when I pick up the phone or when I do a Zoom call and actually just take someone through that rather than send them notes. So just please consider that as well. And one more thing is just, it's been in my head. It's always in my head. So I just want to say it so it doesn't like bother me. So it's on the table. So, I've been so blessed to meet so many of you. And when I get on the call, sometimes I feel I want to say hi to everybody, say everybody's name. But if I don't say your name, please don't, not that I don't see you, I don't appreciate you. It's just, there's so many people. Okay. So please forgive me if I don't greet you personally. It's just, there's so many people, but I have so much respect and love for you all, and so I'm so humbled that we are on this journey and you guys are taking your time to be on this call again. This is session 7, I believe. Okay, so why don't we just jump right in and then see where the Spirit takes us. So where we left off last week was page 65, bottom of page 65. We took a look at the examples. So we went through the first 3 columns. And the assignment was for anyone that's moved to work on the first 3 columns, do a master list of current resentments, and then the cause, and then how that was affected. And by the way, if you are never moved to in this workshop to do that, that's perfectly fine too. It's still going to be beneficial. You can still pass it on, right? And if you haven't done the assignment, no problem. You can catch up this week, right? Along with column 4, all good. God doesn't make too hard terms. So let's go to the bottom of page 65. When we went back through our lives, nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. Please circle the word honesty. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. Please circle the word it. Put an arrow to the bottom margin. Okay. Please write the first 3 columns. The first 3 columns. So up to now, I think it's important, like for the new person to know, right? What am I considering here? Well, we just did 3 columns, the first 3 columns, especially the third one, right? That's what I'm considering, the new person is considering after they finished the first 3 columns. The first thing apparent was that this world and its people were quite wrong, were often quite wrong, question mark. So at this point in time, the new person, the sponsee, the prospect has finished the first 3 columns, right? So what they're doing, these are now considerations for the first 3 columns after they've done them. If any friends were moved to do the first three columns currently for current resentments during the last week, you're asking yourself these questions regarding that piece of inventory. If anyone, for the friends that haven't done it, just consider that in your many inventories that you've written in the first three columns. Is that true for me at this point in time? So the first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. Question mark after wrong. We're just going to put wise close to the question mark, as in yes. Okay. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. Question mark. Is that true for me to some degree? The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore, question mark. The power of this sacred text comes from when I can see myself in it. That's the power of it. Otherwise, it's just some words, right? Sometimes it was remorse and then we were sore ourselves, question mark. But with the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got, question mark. Is that true of my current resentments or my past resentments? As in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived, question mark. Was that true for me? The moments of triumph where I won an argument, where my voice was louder or I checkmated somebody with my intellect, right? When I just felt good at that time, is it my experience that was short-lived? I walk away an hour later, it's still inside of me. I should have said this, I should have said that, I'm not free. As in war, the victor only seemed to win. Okay? Beautiful. It is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness, question mark. Is that my experience so far from writing this first three columns? Futility, I believe it's uselessness, right? Somebody look it up. I believe I looked it up before, but my memory's not the greatest. Futility and unhappy. Is it true that deep resentments, when I have them, when I'm sucked in by them, when I'm imprisoned by them, I'm just not useful in life and I'm just unhappy? To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile? Question mark. Man, I remember my head going and having resentments about something that happened at work, and I'm just not able to be present with my son and play with her and be in love and be happy like I'm trying, but I'm somewhere else, man. Squander the hours worthwhile. It just steals this dis-ease of alcoholism, my resentment, what the big book classifies, categorizes as the number one offender. It takes away my life from me. Life is lived in this moment, right here, right now, in this conversation, steals it from me. Is it true? Squander the hours worthwhile? Question mark. And then a why. If you grab the yellow highlighter, please, important now. But with the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth, circle with pen the word growth. Every time in this big book, we're going to see continuum growth. We're going to continue, right? I think Butch was telling me there was a long time, I forget his name. He used to say, in this program, you're either growing or you're going. There's no middle of the road. I'm either growing or I'm going. Right? So please circle the word growth and then continue in yellow of a spiritual experience. Continue in yellow. This business of resentment is infinitely grave. It's deadly. Continue in yellow. We found that it is fatal. It's deadly. Continue in yellow. For when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the spirit, the insanity of alcohol returns and we drink again. End of yellow. Okay, so we started the yellow from but with the alcoholic whose hope is, and then we ended it with the line, the insanity of alcohol returns and we drink again. Okay, no more yellow, no more highlighting. And again, as I have moved, as I'm taking a new person in, and it's so beautiful, I think, because I keep saying this, but it's because it's been my experience, right? Nobody has to mimic anybody here. Not that I don't learn from my elders, from the people that I truly put on pedestals, and I admire, some of whom are on this call. Not that I don't learn from them, not that I don't steal some of this stuff sometimes, eventually becomes a part of my experience, I do, right? But I don't have to mimic anybody. I just have to copy the big book of all. I have to follow and mimic the directions of the big book. And then, so as I'm taking the newcomer with the question marks and the highlight comes, the spirit invokes something inside of me. If I need to share, I'll share. I'll ask a question from them if I need to. This is a God deal. It's a spiritual led deal. It's not a mechanical deal at its core, right? Okay, so sorry. And with us, the drink is to die, okay? If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men, but for alcoholics, these things are poison. Okay, the grouch, like, always irritable anger, the brainstorm, I should have said this, I should have said that, F them, I'm going to plan this, oh my God. No wonder so many alcoholics, you hear they shoot themselves in the, in the head or the hand, just the voice, shut up. Here we go, here's some freedom now, okay? Grab the pink, please. Grab the pink, please. Pink, remember, is promises, prayers, and meditations. Promises and prayers, really, okay? Return back to the list, for it held the key to the future. That's pink. That's a promise. We go back to the list when it holds the key to the future. In yellow, please, important, we were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle, yellow, to make it stand out from the pink. It's important. No more yellow. We began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. Question mark after dominated us. Please put the Y, leave the left margin alone. Put the Y somewhere close to the question mark, right? When I'm in resentment, for years before and sometimes till now, when I'm deep in resentment with the dis-ease of alcoholism has me lulled into a delusion that it's your fault, my discomfort, it's as if like I'm giving you, whoever the person is that I have resentment against, the remote control to my feelings. Here you go, press it. Jump, feel bad, feel sad, you get angry, right? They dominate me. The world and its people really dominate me. Okay? In that state, the wrongdoing of others, circle this please, fancied or real, doesn't matter. Fancied or real, whether 100% it was in my head that they're talking about me, or the guy really punched me in the face, doesn't matter. Fancied or real, had power to actually kill. Resentment has the power to kill me. It destroys everything in my life, kills everything good in my life, and eventually, left untreated, a drink is around the corner and I die. How could we escape? We saw that these resentments must be mastered, but how? In yellow, please. We could not wish them away any more than alcohol. We could not wish them away any more than alcohol. So from that highlight, we could not wish them away any more than alcohol, could not with that line. If you put a little line to the left margin, little line and arrow to the left margin, and we're going to write long ways. So the left margin is now facing you. Please turn it clockwise, yeah, 90 degrees. Please write this. Now, this is important, eh? Well, I think it's important. I don't have the power to work on my own resentments. I don't have the power to work on my own resentments. That's what they're talking about here. Earlier on, through my step one experience, I became present to the fact that I am powerless. I don't have the power of choice. I never did. I don't, and I will never do have the power of choice. I'm powerless over picking up the drink. And then they tell me the root cause of your illness, Ali, is a self-centeredness. You suffer from a spiritual illness. The major source of which, the biggest offender, the mother of all spiritual illnesses, is resentment. Everything else comes from that. And then they tell me you don't even have the power to work on your own resentments. We could not wish them away any more than we could alcohol. Okay? In yellow now, this was our course. This was our course. We, excuse me, we realized. Please circle the word realize. We're going to write some notes here, okay? In the fourth column, we're going to have a bit of notes, some highlight. We realized, okay? Would you mind, please, if you put a, next to the circle, yeah, next to the circle realized, let me see, how do we want to do this? Put an asterisk right to the right of the circle, asterisk like a star, and put brackets around it. Okay, hold on to that thought. So we realized that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. Though we did not like their symptoms and the way they disturbed us, grab the yellow highlighter, please. They, like ourselves, were sick too. They, like ourselves, were sick too. That's yellow highlight, please. They, like ourselves, were sick too. Okay. Again, as always, in the spirit of this workshop, not being about anybody's unpacking and breaking down, and being about passing this message on to the next person and us sharing together, I'm gonna ask to please put up your hands electronically, whoever is moved, to share on this. Okay, specific example, laser-like. Okay, not a whole general share, please. Specific example, laser-like. Okay, so, but we're not finished. Okay, we highlighted, they like ourselves, we're sick too. Please circle, you highlighted in yellow, like ourselves. We want to make it really stand out. Like ourselves. Okay, so we realized that the people who wronged us was perhaps spiritually sick. At the beginning of this paragraph, it says we're prepared to look at it from a different angle. The experience that I have in this life is directly proportional to the angle at which I look at life. Most of the time, or the point of view that I have in my life, most of the time, my point of view is like this. Okay, for those who are going to listen to audio later on, I have my fist sort of in my eye, and I'm looking through a little small hole. Most of the time, my point of view is like this, and I believe I can see everything, right? So what happens is when I start to look at it from a different angle, I open up this hole a little bit. I look at it from a different side. That's where my freedom comes from. I got to look at it from a different angle. Okay, so now here's an angle they introduced me to. When somebody has hurt me, perhaps I can consider, okay? I realize that they are spiritually sick. Though I did not like their symptoms and the way they hurt me, they, check this out, like ourselves were sick too. So not that they're spiritually sick and my ego stands on a spiritual hilltop, points down and pities on people that are spiritually sick. No, like me, like me, except their spiritual sickness looks a little bit different today, and I'm disturbed by it, and I'm judging it. Okay, good? Okay, so we put an asterisk right next to realize. Now, please, if you would, bring that asterisk on the top of page 67, on the top margin, top left, put the same asterisk, put brackets around it. We're gonna write a couple of lines now. Please write small, okay? That means when you see this realize asterisk, you read it and then you come back to this, okay? So I don't know if anybody has had experience with this. This was passed on to me from, I think, a step study about 8 years ago. I was going through, I think it was Joe Hawk and Mark Houston, I can't remember. Anyway, so this is called the realization consideration, okay? Next to this asterisk, please write small, please write realization consideration. Realization consideration. And then put a colon after consideration. Okay, ready? So now, this is what I asked myself. This is the consideration when somebody, this is all before I start writing the fourth column, eh? So I finish the first 3 columns and I come, so realization consideration, here it is. Have I done the same? I'm gonna read the whole thing so you get an idea for how much space you need, then I'll keep reading it slowly, okay? Have I done the same things I resented in column 2? to the person in column 1 and or others. Okay. Have I done the same things? Have I done the same things I resented in column 2, comma, to the person in column 1 and / or others, question mark? Have I done the same things I resented in column 2 to the person in column 1 and or others? That's a realization consideration. One more time. Have I done the same things I resented in column 2 to the person in column 1 and or others? And Kuna and Trish are going to be typing that up in the chat for you. And if not, all good. We'll figure it out. We'll help each other. Okay. So can I get some, before we go on, can I just get some hands from some friends that I've moved to just on that realization question? Okay. Not a big general share. I had this resentment. That's a realization question for it. That's what I've done to her, to others. Okay. Ready? Susan, come on up, please.
Susan, alcoholic. Yes, a resentment against my boss for trying to make a case to get rid of me because I was a whistleblower on a fraud case. But in the past, I have pissed them off by telling the truth when it didn't need to be said the way I said it.
Thank you, Susan. Vinay, come on up, please.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, it's so difficult for me. When I was first doing this 4th step, it was so difficult for me to look through my delusions and my fears. I had a seething resentment against somebody who molested me when I was a kid. And you know what? When I was looking at this realization effect, what I came to realize is, I saw this person 30 years after the event, and it caused shame and embarrassment and fear in me. And you know what? I've done the same. I've caused shame, embarrassment, and fear in people, not by molesting them, but I've done this to people that I love. So the only difference between this person and me is the nature of our sins. That's about it. That was a big realization for me. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Vinay. Tali, come on up, please, my friend.
Thank you. Wow. I recently moved to Connecticut to live closer to my son. And as I live closer to him, and he's a sweetheart on many days, but there are some days I really have a difficult time. I don't feel invited often enough. I don't feel, and with this resentment, I asked myself, as I've discussed with you, a number of things. I looked and I asked myself, have I ever been harsh with my mom before she died? Am I living with those harsh words? Am I living with the fact that, did she always feel invited and welcome as I expect my son to invite and welcome me all the time? And yeah, I have done the same. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Tali. Valerie, come on up, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Valerie, alcoholic. I hope you can hear me.
Hi.
This is regarding my father, and all I'm going to say is that, I was the oldest of 4, and I was held responsible for my siblings, and I was really physically abused and beaten on a regular basis, and I could do no right no matter what. And my father was very, very harsh with me. So he was like top of my list. The hardest one for me. But I want to tell you, Ali, this realization consideration, actually, it's like so from God, because it happened to me without being directed. It happened to me as I was in this place in writing my inventory with my father. And I realized that he was human, not God. And I realized that even though I had not been violent like he, I was capable of that. and it leveled it out and it evened it out and it made it so that I could move forward. And it was a miracle. It led to my being able to forgive him. And it was just an amazing process that was definitely the grace of God. Had nothing to do with me, except that I was willing to do this work and put stuff on.
Thank you, Valerie. Barb, hi.
Good morning, Barb Alcoholic. So there were several people in my column too that did not show up, keep their commitments. And that was probably one of the biggest things that I was doing in my life, is not showing up for my commitments and doing what I said I would do.
Thank you, Barb. Beautiful. Thank you so much, everybody. So realization consideration. Have I done the same things I resented in column 2 to the person in column 1 and others? Perhaps they are spiritually sick like I am. That realization question, I don't even have to like write any notes on it, just to consider it before each 4th column. It just minimizes my ego, cracks the door enough for the light to start to come in, for me to start to look at what are my mistakes, which we're going to get to now, right? So if you grab the pink, please, prayer now. We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. That's in pink, okay? It's a prayer. That's in pink, please. We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. That's in pink. So just, by the way, if I ever say anything like to write this note, and if it really like, I ask you to set aside everything that you think, just set it aside. But if something really doesn't jive with you, then just don't do it. Okay, that's no big deal. Okay, so this is one of them. So, you know what, where it says tolerance, pity, and patience. So I don't know about you guys, but in these days, my understanding of the word pity, how we use it, is somehow once I say pity, I'm above something or somebody, and I'm just looking down at them. That's how my ego takes it, right? I don't believe in the 1930s language and in the context of everything that they've said here, that's what the Spirit wants me to do. To look at someone that's less than me, I just pity you. No. So what I have done, this is what I've done, it's helped me tremendously when I was stuck, is above the word pity, I write the word empathy. I believe that's more fitting in what the spirit of what pity was back then. Okay, and if you don't think that's true, all good, man. Right? So tolerance, empathy, and patience. Empathy is when I'm able to put myself in another person's shoes. Perfect. So no more pink. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, grab the pink now. Again, we're going to continue in pink now. Prayer. This is a sick man or woman. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry, thy will be done. That's all in pink. Okay? This is a prayer, continuation of that prayer. This is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry, thy will be done. Okay. Now, if you grab the pen, right after this is a sick man or woman, whatever in your case, right? This is a sick man. So from the period or between the word man and how, like this is sick man, if you just, from the period, put a line to the right column and please write like me. Or just put a line just above it, between the two sentences, put like me. I need to insert that there in my prayer, because I don't want to forget. Just the line before, they said like ourselves, they were sick too. When I'm doing this prayer, I want to make sure that my ego is really humbled. This is a sick person like me, God. So like me, that's helped tremendously. Like me. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry, thy will be done. And then to the right of done in that little space, there's different names for it. I've heard sick man prayer. It doesn't resonate with me. What I put is the resentment prayer. This is the resentment prayer. When I have a resentment, okay. When I have a resentment, I'll just say it. I'm not praying for the person. I'm praying for me. I am the one with the issue, not the person. Okay, so I'm not saying don't do that if that's working for you, but when I have a resentment, I'm not praying for the person to get everything that I want. That's like mental manipulation, right? I'm telling God, I don't really mean that, right? When I have a resentment, I have the issue. I'm praying for God to please remove from me this blockages. I can certainly pray for people, and I do. I have a list of people every morning I pray for, you know, but not when I have a resentment, not as a solution to get rid of a resentment. Asterisk controversy. I know there's a story at the back of the book that a member has written that that's their experience. They had a resentment and they prayed for 2 weeks for the person and the resentment went away. I understand that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That may work. All I'm saying is that in the solution part, they haven't told me to do that. They've said I have the issue. I got to pray for me, right? So, okay, so perfect. Resentment prayer. So now, continue. We avoid retaliation, no more highlight. We avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chance of being helpful. Okay. In the third step prayer, I made a commitment. I made a deal with God. God, you take care of the details of my life. I'm going to stay close to you and do your work well. And the prayer itself, it tells me what the work is. I'm going to help your other kids, God. As you take away my difficulties, I'm going to try to help your other kids, and they will see through me. I'll be a demonstration of your love, your light, your power, your way of life, right? So I got to be useful. We avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chance of being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least grab the pink, please. It's a promise. It could be turned into a prayer. God will show us from God. God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. Just a couple of things. I sort of skipped over that. At the beginning of the prayer, we said we ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, empathy, and patience that we would grant a sick friend. That's for me. It's like, you know, it's like I usually ask the person newcomer. Imagine if you had do you have a friend or somebody in your life that you love, right? That you really care about. Most people do, right? Most people do. Imagine if this person had cancer and they were in the hospital and they were going through chemo and they were stage 4, and they were going to die. They were in so much pain, right? There was a pump full of medication. And then your life got so busy that you didn't get a chance to do the weekly visits or every other day visits that you were, for a couple of weeks, you weren't able to visit them. You call them up and they start swearing at you. You effing piece of Dana, you are so selfish. I'm dying. And look what you do. You don't even care about myself. Right? At that point in time, this friend that you love very much, and you're so clear that they're in so much pain, they have cancer, they're dying. What would your reaction be to them? I want you to give the same, I want you to bring forth to this fourth column with these prayers, the same spirit that you would bring to that friend. Okay? I don't know about you, but me, I would just let him or her say whatever he wants, and I'll apologize and I'll go visit them. Now, I may be having a bad day and my ego may be grabbing me, and I may say a word or two to them and hang up, but you know what I'm doing soon after? I'm going to the hospital and kissing their feet. That's what I'm doing, you know? So that spirit of it, okay? So now, I want to share something with you that maybe some friends here, that's what you've done all the time, but I hadn't before. I was in the big book and I hadn't before, okay? This entire movement of these steps is, how can I put it? Like, I have worked these steps. I know these are just like finite words. They don't even mean anything. Work the steps, done the steps, who cares, right? But I've gone through the steps with self-will, unknowingly, right? On the surface. But here's the thing. That's all I was capable of doing, and God spoon-fed me. I wasn't wrong for doing that, okay? I'm not saying that. But when I became awake to this, that everything from the third step on is about prayer and guidance. I don't do anything alone. I don't do anything with my brain, with myself. Everything is about prayer. So what we highlighted here is a prayer that I do before every single fourth column, because I want the Spirit to guide me. I want the pen to become the spiritual translator, not Ali writing this, because ego's gonna get in there anyways. And the fifth column, we remedy that with the sponsor, right? We remedy that with the sponsor, right? But I want the Spirit to come through the pen, through my arm, and just write for me and reveal to me. But I need to ask Spirit. Okay, so I don't attempt any fourth column without a prayer before it. And this resentment prayer. So what I do is before every single fourth column, okay, every single fourth column, I have written on a separate piece of paper. Okay, I ripped it up. I put realization, consideration, and then I rewrite that prayer, or I have my big book open anyways, and I say that prayer. And I make it personal. God, please help me. Please help me show my wife the same tolerance, empathy, and patience that I should be granting her as my wife. She's a sick person at this moment, just like I am, no different than me. How can I be helpful to her? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done. God, would you please show me how to take a kindly and tolerant view towards my wife? I put those together. I write it, right? So obviously, I'm not going to write it out for every person. So where the name's supposed to go, I put a blank, right? I put a blank. And I carry that piece of paper with me in every fourth column. I say my prayer, I sit, and then I wait for Spirit to start moving me. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you, like I know something. No, let me share with you. It is a different experience on a different depth. When I'm praying before each fourth column, with the humility and the awareness that without him, I am nothing. I need his guidance, her guidance. It's a different experience of revelation. Inventory is different, man. It's just been my experience, okay? So I hope, again, please don't add anything else to the notes that we've done in the big book, because it'll be way too busy, right? But what I suggest is any other notes you need to write, just write on your notebook there, and then you can have it, right? As you, like, for example, this suggestion to have the prayer written down. Okay, so far so good, everybody. Yeah, thumbs up or something like that. Everyone's good. Okay, good. Okay, good, beautiful. Okay. So, by the way, the plan, I had prayed and sat a lot. I said a lot what the assignment is. Where do you want this to go, God? What should we do, God? Right? And it was approximately 12 sessions. Okay, we'll go where the Spirit takes us. It'll be what it'll be. Okay. It will take, like, for example, we're going to devote this entire session. We're almost done the fourth column, probably just to the fourth column and Q&A. We're going to do it inside the 1.5 hour. Okay. And then next week we'll do fear. Next week we'll do sex. We'll cover whatever we can in these 12 sessions. But I believe it'll be enough. It'll be enough to move forward. Okay. When I'm one-on-one with somebody, it's different than a group dynamic. It moves a little faster, right? There's a lot of things we do in the group we have to do that we don't have to do, right? And then also a side note, I am willing and able to stay. I believe we'll cover at least till step 7, probably finish step 9, and maybe into 10 by session 12. The plan is to finish step 12, right? But if we don't, if we finish by step 9 and step 10 and 11, that's more than enough, right? It's just that the rest is just, you know, it's fine. But on a side note, I am willing and able and will stay on as long as it takes. And whoever wants to stay on with me will stay. And you know, that's, so anyways, that's a, okay. So now let's go back to page 67. So one more thing, by the way. So at this point in time, remember we said efficiently, effectively, powerfully. Effectively, powerfully, because we stay as true to the text as we can. Okay, because you could be really efficient and not really be in the text. It will lose its effectiveness and powerfulness. Okay, but efficiently, because the step 1 chapters that take so long, step 1 and 2 chapters, laser like through these. Okay, now from the inventory onward, from step 3 onwards, especially the inventory onwards, if I am not pushing or coercing or threatening or warning, you got to do it now. No, the big book tells me, I just lay down the spiritual kit of tools for their inspection. If they pick it up, beautiful. If they don't, all good. This is up to spirit now, how fast we go from inventory onwards, but I'm available, right? So, and I give them the homework column by the assignments column by column, so it'll be bite-sized. I usually give deadlines or timelines, right? Take 1 day, take 2 days, come back, right? So I help them along. I've done stuff like, I remember sponsees, really difficult for them no matter what I tried, I prayed, it was just difficult for them to put pen to paper, right? I've done things like booked an appointment in a coffee shop, and okay, you bring your book and you work on your stuff and I'll read a book and I'll have a coffee, just to give them that encouragement, you know what I mean? So it's whatever the spirit moves you. So from now on, don't worry about so much about efficiency and quickly. It's not about that. The spirit guys. Okay? All right, that was a lot. Let's go back. Referring to our list again, in yellow, please. Referring to our list again, in yellow. Putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done, comma, we resolutely look for our own mistakes. That's all in yellow. Referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done, we resolutely look for our mistakes. That's in yellow. Here's the freedom. I got to refer to my list again. Please circle the word resolutely, which we have highlighted in yellow. Circle resolutely. Resolutely means with determination. Here's some instructions, Referring to our list again, putting out of our minds wrongs others had done, we resolutely look for our mistakes. Check this out. When I'm at the 4th column, the instruction for me is to put out of my mind what they have done. Meaning, at this point, they don't have a part in this. That may be contrary to some friends' experiences. I'm just going to ask you to please set aside and see if, just try it out, see if it fits for you, okay? So let's keep reading. I'll come back to this point. No more yellow. Where had we been? Selfish, please circle with pen selfish. Dishonest, please circle with pen dishonest. Self-seeking, please circle with pen self-seeking. And frightened, please circle with pen frightened. Okay, so this is not in yellow, but we've circled words. Where had we been? Selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, frightened. Okay, though a situation had not been entirely our fault, okay, they give me a little bone, give the ego a little bone. Okay, not entirely your fault, Ali. Grab the yellow highlighter now. We try to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? In yellow, we try to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? Okay, no more yellow. The inventory was ours, not the other person's, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly, and we're willing to set these matters straight. Okay, so let's just go back to this paragraph a little bit, right? Okay, so I have had experience in the past when I was in and out, and I hear sometimes some friends, and it was passed on to me because that was passed on to them. And I'm not making this wrong, okay? So let's just please, the 4th column is what was my part. What was your part, right? That's the 4th column. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's working, beautiful, nothing wrong with that. If that's been your experience, I'm going to invite you to come and look at it from a different angle, okay? Because when I start to look at it from this angle, my experience started to deepen and I start to become even more free, okay? So when I write inventory, when I used to do what's my part, right? My ego, because like I can't, it just, ego needs to survive. It needs to defend. It needs to rationalize. It needs to be right. It needs to be approved of, right? So my part, all of a sudden, in my spirit, somewhere deep down, especially resentments that really got a hold of me, right? I'm thinking, well, they have a part. Well, they did this to me. Okay, well, okay, maybe my part is this, right? But I invite you to look at the big book, and the big book doesn't say that at all. The big book, I have discussed and written, sometimes not at length, short form, but at least discussed with the sponsor what their part is in the second column. I've discussed that. What they're saying is that you got to look at it from an entirely different angle, Ali. This is a key to your future. You're going to become free of that. And my freedom does not come from you admitting your mistakes. My sobriety and my serenity does not come from that. You know what I mean? Let's put it another way. My sobriety and my peace in my heart is not affected by your mistakes, even though it seems like it. I know it does, right? Well, I'm talking to myself right now. I know it does at times for me, right? And it's not even impeded or affected by me making mistakes. You know what my sobriety and serenity is affected by? By me defending my mistakes, by me needing to defend my mistakes. So now what does the big book say? The big book says, referring to our list again, Ali, put out of your mind the wrong that this person had done. And with determination, you look at your mistakes. Where were you selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, frightened? Though the situation had not been entirely your fault, we get it. Look what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to try to disregard the other person involved entirely. The other person doesn't have a part when I'm at the fourth column. This is big, man. This was big for me. You know what I mean? And it's hard, man. The ego wants to fight it at times, right? Entirely. Where were we to blame? Where were we to blame? Okay, so beautiful. So now, okay, that was a lot. I hope everyone's okay with that. So if you now turn the book counterclockwise, so the right margin is facing you, and so I hope I can explain this properly. The length of this paragraph, which starts from referring to our list again, that line to the end of the paragraph, we're going to do our writing, just keep it to the length of this paragraph. So 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines, whatever it is, right? So up high, please write call for. This is column 4, call for. Highlight that in yellow. So column 4 has one of 2 headings, and the big book doesn't say it's my part. I'm not saying that anyone's wrong doing that. I'm saying my experience became deeper when I looked at what the big book is actually saying. Okay, so 2 headings. So call for. I hope there's room that you can write 2 small lines, the length of that paragraph. The first line is right below call for, or right below call for. Please write, where am I to blame? Question mark. That's the 4th column. Where am I to blame? That's it. That's the first one. First line below call for, where am I to blame? That's one possible heading of the 4th column. Okay. And then put the word or, and then go right below it. We're going to write a line approximately the same length. Or another heading, possible heading that they give me, what are my mistakes? Where am I to blame? What are my mistakes? That's the 4th column. That's where my freedom comes from. Where am I to blame? What are my mistakes? Okay, beautiful. Where am I to blame? What are my mistakes? Okay, we're going to write some definitions. I'm just going to say a couple words. I'm going to share with you one inventory from the past. And then we're going to bring some hands up and for any Q&A and anything else. Okay, I think today we're able to do our Q&A within the time allotted, or anything sharing or anything. Okay, so okay, so now we have now room in the bottom margin. We have room in the bottom margin of page 67. We have room in the bottom margin of page 66. So we're going to try the bottom margin of page 67. We're going to define selfish, self-seeking, dishonest fear. So it's right there. It's going to be 4 lines. Please write small. The first bullet point. And if you can't fit it on the bottom of the page 67, just go to 66. No problem. Continue with it. So bullet point, as high to the left as you can get to the bottom margin there. Please write selfish, colon. This is a working definition, okay? So it means it's a definition that we're using to do what we're doing. It's not the only definition. Please don't get stuck and rigid on what it is, right? Something else helps you use that definition, no problem. Selfish, where and how am I selfish? Where and how am I selfish? Okay, where and how am I selfish? Below it, little bullet point, we're still writing small as possible. Self-seeking, colon. Self-seeking, colon. Okay. What is my ego seeking from the situation / person? Okay, I'm going to repeat it again. What is my ego seeking from the situation / person? What is my ego seeking from the situation / person? So for example, I don't know, I go to my parents' house and my dad starts yelling. Okay, so I get resentful, I get a little bit irritated. Where am I selfish? Well, in that moment, the only thing I'm concerned about is how I'm feeling about the situation, really. It doesn't matter what he went through, his pain, what the background of the story was, none of that stuff matters. I'm just thinking about how am I feeling, selfish, right? Self-seeking. What is my ego seeking from the situation / person, right? In that, my ego is seeking, what is my ego seeking from the situation? Oh, seeking for him, seeking calm, seeking comfort, seeking respect at all costs, by the way, at all costs. I don't care what's happening to him. I want from him calm, respect to me and my mom. I just want it, right? Comfort. That's my ego seeking. I'm seeking comfort at all costs, right? I'm just making it up as we go along, right? So what is my ego seeking from the situation / person? What is self-seeking? Usually self is seeking respect, approval, acknowledgement, you know, self is seeking. And it's not that it's bad to want those things, but when self seeks it, self doesn't give a about anything or anyone. I just need it like I need oxygen at all costs. Well, I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way, okay? So you define that. What is my ego seeking from the situation / person? One more bullet point, okay? We have 2 more bullet points, but if you run out of room, just go to the bottom of page 67, do the same thing. One more bullet point, below self-seeking, dishonest, colon. We're gonna define dishonest with some words, okay? And so dishonest, colon, lies, comma. So lies is a very surface dishonesty. Is usually easy to see for most people. For me, certainly, it's easy to see. I lied, right? I lied. I fibbed. I didn't tell the truth. Lies, comma. Withholding truth, comma. Another form of dishonesty. That's not always as easy for me to see. Like when I withhold truth, but I'm not withholding truth, let's say, because I just don't want to hurt that person's feelings. And it's just not the right thing to say, you know? I'm withholding truth because if I say that, I don't want confrontation. I don't want her to find out how much money I spent and I could have paid that bill. I'm withholding truth. You know? I'm not lying. She didn't ask me, so I didn't tell her. I'm not lying. Withholding truth. So lies, comma, withholding truth. Here, the last 2 are a lot more difficult for me to see. I'm getting better at it, but for me to see when when the resentment really has its hooks in me. Remember, a solitary self-appraisal seldom suffices. Later on in the 5th step they talk about, right? So we have lies, we have karma, withholding truth, karma, manipulations. Manipulations, karma. That's harder to see. That form of dishonesty. You know how sometimes I say something to you because I know that you're going to be affected about somebody in a nonchalant way, not really gossiping, just saying it. Because I know that you're going to be affected and then you're going to go address it with that person because I don't want to address it with that person myself. Manipulations. Very crafty. Very crafty, right? Dishonest. Manipulations. Okay, karma. And the last form of dishonesty, one of the hardest for me to see, delusions. Delusions. I usually need a sponsor, someone that is standing from the outside that I've given spiritual consent to, that cares about me in a 5th step, to maybe ask me to look at it from a different angle. Delusions. I'll give you an example. My father, remember, when I share, I usually sometimes talk about him. I hated him for years, right? I blamed him, addict, beat me, all that kind of, beat us, all that kind of, right? And him and I are in love today, by the way. I love him, right? So here's one of the delusions I came out in my inventory, my original inventory, and then sometimes subsequent inventories, right? In that I blamed him for years for not being the kind of dad that I wanted or perhaps a kid needed, right? The delusion that I was suffering from was this. So here's the thing. This poor man didn't have to give me what I was asking him to give me because it was never given to him to give to me. When you're kicked out at the age of 12 and beaten and molested, what do you have to give? It's like me walking by a homeless person in downtown Toronto, and every single day for 35 years, demanding $100 from him, and the poor guy is ripped up. I'm not trying to demean my dad. It's just an illusion, just an illustration, right? Analogy. So slobbering and drunk and ripped up and tattered and dirty and just yells at me and throws a penny at me, throws a dime at me. And I'm pissed off at this homeless person for 35 years, blaming every single failure in my life at the age of 35 still. What a delusion I suffer from. How am I demanding $100 from a homeless person that doesn't have to give to me because it was never given to him? Who's the sick one now? You tell me. Right? That's a delusion. That's one example of a delusion. It's hard to see sometimes for me, right? And I suffer from it a lot, right? In fact, I suffer from the delusions resulting from the stories that this sick brain tells me about the facts and events in my life. I suffer from the delusions embedded in the stories that this sick brain tells me about the facts and events in my life. I suffer from the stories that I tell myself. I don't suffer from facts. My father beat me. I'm a loser. I'm not good for nothing. He doesn't love me. It's story. Fact, he beat me. That's it. Fact, he beat me. But it's not that easy. That's why this path is here. That's why I need a loving sponsor. That's why I need prayer. I need God to show me. I need to put pen to paper. But when I come to that freedom, man, one of the aspects of God is, so step 11 says, be quick to see what religious people are right. Be quick to make use of books that they have to offer, rabbis, priests. And I say any other spiritual person, really, I think fits that, right? So Emmett Fox, so that means I have permission to talk about other stuff, right? A little bit. So Emmett Fox, which book was it? Man, just beautiful. I just love his writings. Oh man, I forget which book it was, but somewhere along the way in the chapter, he talks about the 7 aspects of God or 7 characteristics of God, right? One of them is truth. How I experience this God is when I stand in truth. Know the truth and you will be free. The truth will set you free. We turn back to the list. For held the key to our future. We're looking at it, prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. I suffer in the lies that I live in. In truth, I am free. In truth, I'm free. That's what this fourth column does for me. I experience God. Why is it that I write a piece of inventory and I start to feel lighter and I could breathe? Exact same thing. Nothing changed outside. Why is it? Because now I stand in truth of what's really going on. Because I get to look at my selfishness, my dishonesty, my self-seeking, and my fears. Okay, so now one last bullet point. One last bullet point. If you can fit it there, if not, bottom of page 66, fear. Fear. We're going to define fear. Or frightened, they say, but we just put fear. Colon. It's not really a definition. It just makes it a little bit more clear. Okay, so please write fear. And then put in a bracket the letter S right next to the R. Like fear, that means or fears, right? That's all that means. Fear, put in bracket the letter S. Fear or fears. Fear. Underlying and fueling resentment. Fear underlying and fueling resentment. Fear underlying fueling. Okay, so next week we'll do the fear inventory, and I'm gonna share with you probably the most powerful way I've ever been introduced to a fear inventory. Okay, so next, so just a little thing. Underneath every single resentment, there's a fear fueling it, underlying it, or else I wouldn't have the resentment. The 12 and 12 talks about, I think in a general way, there's two umbrellas of fears that I suffer from in a general way. One is fear of not getting what I want or what I think I should have, or the other one umbrella is fear of losing what I have. There's another spiritual teacher in one of his talks, one of us talks about, well, I think when he shares on Step 4, he's like, if you put Peter, he says, if you put, I've heard him say this, if you put all of the resentments, he says, that I've ever in a funnel, you know, like the big end of the funnel, the small end is pointing down, right? All of them in a funnel, if you put one word out from the bottom, small end, it'll be fear. Fear, underlying and fueling every resentment, fear, okay? Beautiful, fear. All right, so couple of things. I'm going to share one inventory, and then we'll open it to Q&A, and I'll stay for about 10 or 10 minutes after just so just because I have an appointment earlier today. So now, just for our friends here. So I never want to be so rigid to be programmed by the words of this book, right? I got to allow God to come in, right? So just notice in the big book here, they clearly give me 3 column examples. They give me an example of the 3 columns, right? We follow to the best of our ability. We changed a little bit the 3rd column like last time, but nothing, right? Nothing to go against the big book, only enhance, makes it easier for the new person, right? But they never, moving forward from the 4th column, fear inventory, sex inventory, they don't give any actual examples, okay? But over here, we'll leave that for next week for the fear inventory discussion. But for now, all they say to me is that we turn back to the list, look at it from a different angle, right? So it's logical to extrapolate that perhaps we put a 4th column in there, right? No 5, 6 columns, perhaps we put a 4th column in there. Or perhaps I turn the page around and I just do the 4th column on the back of the page, right? But the 4th column is where my freedom comes from. Right? As last week, and Everly emailed in the email communication to everybody. I just many years ago I just made up a template of a resentment inventory template that very close to the big book with some definitions on it, right, in the 4th column. So I hope you get that, and if you didn't, just shoot Everly an email and we'll try to get it to you. But otherwise, you could just have an 8.5 by 11 book notebook and just turn it long ways, do the first 3 columns long ways, and then flip the page and leave the entire back page for the 4th column. I believe it's so important to leave lots of room for the 4th column. That's why we're doing one person per resentment, right? And then all your resentments, and then all your third column, and just one fourth column. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so that we can discuss more about that later. I'll share with you, and then I'll be quiet. Just, I don't know, I just went and I dug this up. It was like maybe a few years ago. I don't know how much it's going to reveal, but okay, let's just see. My dad, okay? So remember, we fell in love, we became free, and then resentments come, okay? Just to give an example. Dad, I had a resentment. This is when I did my yearly. Once a year, I can recommit to the first 9 proposals, right? He was one of the resentments that came up again. Dad, the cause. Often talks negatively about mom. Blames her for everything. Repeats same resentment from decades ago. Totally blinded to all his mistakes and abuses. Delusional. Okay? Okay? Not a big whole long backstory. I could have probably made it, okay? Affects my. So for the purpose of what we're doing, because when I'm passing, remember what we're doing last week, we said for the third column for the new person, which is just like the big book, it just says self-esteem, pride, ambition, just writes it. We in the third column, we just say yes or no. Yes or no, right? So I'm going to skip the third column. I'm not going to read you what I wrote in the third column. That's a different story. My mistakes, okay? My mistakes. So he's an addict without a solution. He's on Suboxone and has early stages of Alzheimer's. And I'm judging him on what these 2 illnesses are doing to him. In brackets, I put after that, delusional, selfish, self-seeking. Okay? I want my dad to magically heal just so I'm comfortable in our conversations. In brackets, I put after that, selfish, self-seeking. I'm making his pain about my feelings. In brackets, I put selfish. To the best of his ability, he's always tried to be there for me as much as he has been capable of, i.e. financially, kindness, love. Yet, instead of having understanding and compassion in my heart, I judge him, dishonest, selfish. Venting to me is the only solution that he has at times, and to be able to breathe a little bit. I want to take that away from him because I'm uncomfortable. Selfish, dishonest, self-seeking. Fear, being uncomfortable, him making my mom miserable, him never getting better. These are some of the fears that came up. My sister, last one. My sister, cause, lives financially irresponsible, risk taker, lives beyond her means, wants me to do sales for her new company instead of doing it herself, has always maneuvered and scammed money from her parents. And I put some examples there. How affects my yes, self-esteem, pride, all that kind of stuff. My mistakes. Now, this is a few years back. So I need lots of room for my fourth column, right? Because the spirit is, the pen becomes a spiritual translator, 1. And then remember, in the 5th step, I need room to write notes on what my sponsor sees that I don't see, right? So I need lots of room in my 4th column. That's why I do my 4th column in the back of a page usually. Okay. My mistakes. For years, she's been living this way, and at the same time being there for my parents, as well as helping pay their bills, starting companies, going on vacations, living a good life. For years, I had been destroying my life and poisoning her and my parents with my alcohol and drug addiction. Now I have the audacity to judge her and criticize her. Dishonest, self-seeking, selfish. Now I got better, and all of a sudden I'm standing on a spiritual hilltop. I'm magnifying her shortcomings. Look at where you're coming from, right? Okay. Another point. The truth for my annoyance is I get uncomfortable with her lifestyle. She's perfectly fine with it. I'm worried about my emotional, mental comfort. That's the real truth of it. That's the real truth of it. Selfish, self-seeking in brackets I put after. Another point, my mistakes. She didn't have an older brother or a father, because my father was an active addict too, right? For years. That set a good example for her. She managed and survived the best she could, and she's done a great job. Delusional of me to hold on to her resentment towards her. Delusional, selfish, self-seeking. And the fear, she will be unhappy. Fear, I can't help her financially when she needs it. Okay, so good. Okay, so I hope that sort of helps a little bit. thank you, everybody. So if you would just please, any friends that have any questions and or comments regarding, so the assignment now for the following, for next week, is to please continue in your current inventories that you've written. If you've written, finish the fourth column on it. If you have any questions that cannot be answered by other friends or by our co-host team regarding specifically writing inventory in this way, please get a hold of me. Okay, yeah, Facebook, Kuna, can you put my phone number in the chat, please, for everybody? Please, but please, only if you can't get anyone else to help you, okay? Okay, please, if you don't want, just will be way too much people. There's a lot on the plate, but if you call, I'm happy to be speaking with you, okay? You're not bothering me. If you're moved that you have to call me, I want you to understand something. That is God calling. It is a gift to me. You're never bothering me, okay? And please consider to try to solve it somewhere else first. But if you move to, then come. Yeah, it's okay. All right, beautiful. So can we please just put up maybe what should we do, Mickey? Yeah, Q&A, please. Q&A.